Welcome to Manufacturing Talk Radio.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Manufacturing Talk Radio. I'm Tim Grady here with host Lou Weiss, and we are joined by Nicholas Tana, and we're going to talk about what's going on in manufacturing in Hollywood, which has ground to a halt. There may be a change now. Nicholas, thanks for joining us.
Hi, happy to be here.
Welcome aboard. We had you here back in May, I believe it was, and we were talking about the Hollywood strike, and now we're going to talk a little bit more about the Hollywood strike, and I think today might be the day that it's over.
Well, for some, yeah, the WGA, anyway, the Writers Guild has negotiated terms. But the Screen Actors Guild, and they're still negotiating. I think for the people you see in the movies and television, they still have a lot to negotiate. As far as when that happens, well, we'll see. I mean, I think they're going to really try hard to kind of get everything wrapped up by this October. If they don't get it done by October, then it's probably going to push past the holidays into the new year. So it'll be interesting.
That would be messy.
Yeah. It would be a little less, it would be a different somber holiday. Yeah.
Well,
or people would have time to actually go out and spend time with their families. I don't know.
We can do an AI version of the holidays and it won't be so terrible.
Yeah, of course. Add snow, more than one Santa. Right.
Okay, so let's talk about where they were, where they are sort of, and where they might be by the end of this day, Wednesday, September, help me.
27.
Yeah.
27.
Not to date anything, but
Thank you. I lost it.
Yeah,
So-
2023. Yeah.
So the writers had a bit of a problem with AI and working conditions and being treated poorly and so on and so forth. So where's that all gone?
Yeah, so basically, under the terms of the new agreement, they've negotiated. They've gotten a lot of headway. There's a lot more opportunity for. They've put a lot of rules in there that says, first of all, that they're getting more residuals on the streaming, both domestically and internationally. There's a much higher percentage that they'll be getting paid for that. There's provisions to guarantee an initial rewrite on screenplays as well, which is great. There's provisions to ensure so many I think up to 2 writer producers per show. I mean, there's a lot of terms, so it's hard for me to remember every one of them. I've read through this, just a little bit this morning and then yesterday. But I can summarize really well that the terms are such where there's going to be more concessions, more payment, based on streaming services, which is how a lot of, movies and TV makes money. There's going to be a lot more opportunity. We're guaranteed, I think it's 6 seasons or more that they have to have so many writers on a show. So they're guaranteed, because one of the big concerns about AI, as you remember, is that you can use the tools like ChatGPT to minimize the amount of writers and flatten Hollywood. Well, they're trying to put in some mechanisms so they require a certain amount get hired. That being said, I think what's most important to talk about are the very nebulous territory, the holes potentially in what was accomplished. To start off, I want to say anything around AI is very nebulous. Even what they're saying, and it's one thing to say that these are the terms and the rules, it's another thing to enforce them. And on one level, I believe you're still allowed. They can't force a writer to use ChatGPT, but a writer is allowed to use ChatGPT and AI tools that come about. So knowing that, they're continuing to enmesh and amalgamate what is their intellectual property with what might be existing or other people's intellectual property. And the question becomes, how do you enforce laws when everything's kind of all mingled together? How do you discern what is yours and what is mine? And that's going to become a legal nightmare, I think, or potentially could be, if people wanted to take it to that level. So unfortunately, given the mess that is AI in terms of the data sets and how they work, it's really hard to enforce some of these laws. You can make your best effort, but how that will actually play out in a court of law will be interesting.
There's something interesting I heard either yesterday or the day before about a new aspect of AI, or maybe ASI, and that is that the AI software now can have a conversation with you. You can ask it a question, it'll respond to you, it'll ask you a question, and now you wind up having a conversation in software. So which becomes real and which one isn't real?
Right. And what's
What's
the software? Yeah.
I mean, who's paying the software people? I mean, it's incredible. What's real? So who gets paid, or who doesn't get paid?
Well, as I said, I think might have said earlier in our first conversation, the whole rights and legal of AI and the way it kind of built up, because a lot of private companies made use of fair use through sponsoring educational educational facilities that built out these data sets, and then you're basically using those tools. So that's kind of a interesting way around IP law in some ways. Now we've created that monster of a data set, which is, to be honest, to be fair, to writers and to creatives, it might be very challenging to kind of enforce a lot of these laws. But in terms of development of our society, you bring up an excellent point. When any kind of tool you're using, any kind of new device you buy, if you can have a conversation with it and ask questions versus having to search or know, if it's that intelligent that you can say, hey, well, how do I set this up? Or how do I change the volume on this? Or how do I do this? I've got this unit. And it just basically talks to you like a person that's an expert. That's a tremendously empowering tool. And that's going to allow a lot of progress. It's gonna allow a lot of convenience, which everyone loves. In terms of the fallout, what does that mean for like putting people out of work? And so, well, there's going to be people that won't be needed to do those things, maybe phone support people. And, there might be someone who writes the manual will no longer need to write the manual, so things will disappear. But at the same time, there's something right now that's hot, though, that might be going away as well. Prompt writers, right? These are the people that get paid to write prompts and build them into the AI system. So, there's certain things that will come, new opportunities and jobs will be able to come that weren't there before if you keep your eye open and you're willing to learn.
It's fascinating how much AI is in the news. 2 years ago, you didn't hear much about it.
Yeah.
In terms of the voice that talks to you, I have hearkened to Hey Siri, and mine just popped up.
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
So it's fun to have that kind of technology to play with, but it'll be interesting to see how that develops. As a writer myself, I guess I would be stunned if I were reading something and went, either this guy wrote exactly what I wrote, or he used what I wrote.
You bring up a really good point, because if you, and actually one of the biggest fears of newer writers and all writers, when they don't have a manager or an agent to represent them, to Hollywood in particular, is that Hollywood could steal what they've got. But then the flip side is they make you sign these release forms saying that if they have anything similar in the works or in development, you won't sue them. And then you're like, oh, well, can't they just say that I have something similar in the works and development and then take your idea? And in most cases, that's not what the studios are necessarily looking to do, but they're actually looking to protect themselves from other people, because the reality is you may think your idea is original, but someone else already had it, or someone else has done, and that's very common. We think we're more original than we are, but it's a lot of what gets produced is very derivative. And so the question becomes, okay, well, then who is the real owner? Who's rightfully entitled to that money? Because you can reinvestigate half the shows on TV today and say, is Shakespeare really the owner of that? Or is, Mary Shelley really the owner of this? And, where do you draw the line on that sort of thing? And that's fascinating question. It's something else I want to make sure I say about these contract terms is another term was they made sure to make concessions for people that are showrunners or writers that don't want to be forced to hire other writers to do their shows. So in recognizing that, there is still the opportunity to just hire one writer to do a show. And in which case, if you do that, all those other rules about hiring more writers goes out the window. You do not have to apply those rules. So there's a potential loophole right there. And also the 6-episode rule. I mean, based on what I'm reading in the agreement, it's going to change how shows get picked up and developed. There is an incentive to bring on someone who's going to just do under 6 shows, and that's going to do it all themselves, perhaps using ChatGPT. So that could translate to meaning, yes, we've won these terms and the writers that are getting paid will be making more money, but we're going to hire a lot less of you. And that still doesn't get around that, which is what I had mentioned earlier as well.
What I heard a day or two ago, the union people saying that they got a wonderful deal. Do they know what they're getting?
Well, I think they got what they could get. I mean, I think look, there's always two sides to a negotiation, and this has gone on a while, and people haven't been working and people haven't been feeding their families doing what they do, right? So I think under the terms of, I think under the conditions, they did quite fine for themselves. I think, did they get a good deal? Well, I think, the studios didn't necessarily want to give up more in what they did, but overall, the studios knew exactly what they were giving up. And they've probably already been planning to do less of those shows. They're willing to pay more to the shows that make a lot of money. I think it's like 20, because basically on the terms of the agreement, shows that are most successful, they're going to be paying writers more. But that's okay because they're profiting more, right? There's more room for profit for them. And those are big shows. They're willing to do that. They don't necessarily have to do that for the majority of shows, which aren't necessarily making that much money. And in that case, in terms of feeding the media machine, they might be more encouraged now to hire less writers and to, basically do less seasons. And but I mean, how do you appease everyone? Because if the Writers Guild is made up of writers that might be a single writer on a show, as well as writers that might be a part of an army of writers, you can't win for both necessarily, right? Because by forcing that single writer to now divvy up his pie to other writers or work with other writers, that's not necessarily fair to them, and vice versa. You can't make people do certain things a certain way. So it's a really difficult question to answer simply in terms of did you win? They won things. Are those things going to change how development happens to better suit the studio so that they can profit more? Of course they will. Would we expect anything less? I mean, if you make your money, their fiduciary for Disney is to the stockholders, right? If you yourself, would you want to still own stock in Disney, or would you sell your stock if they're not profiting? So if they don't show profit, they're not going to lose their source of money. They're not going to have people encouraged to actually value their company. So to be fair, it's business, and business is continually evolving. I think what needs to be really one thing people can take away from this though is that the AI stuff is very nebulous, and it's going to be really hard to enforce, what is original, what isn't original. That doesn't skirt that. And B, these contracts are for 3 years. In 3 years' time, and I mentioned this, I think the last time I was on the show, it's up for renegotiation. In 3 years' time, these tools will be at a level that will make this look like Atari to like video games today. Like it is just, they are advancing so fast. It will be interesting what the actors get out of the protections around their faces and images, especially knowing that a future generation will probably be just as happy seeing their video game hero be a star of their next movie as they would Brad Pitt or someone that is a grandparent to them comparatively. So it'll be interesting.
Well, that's probably accurate. I mean, Transformers is a big hit, Star Wars, all of those that use a lot of computer generated graphics where you see characters and go, oh, wow, I happen to like some of the characters other people don't like. They don't exist. They're all CG characters. So you could be exactly right that those will be the actors.
I think they will be. I mean, I was just at Rose City Comic-Con in Portland advertising my eJunky book, and there I found out that Dark Horse was bought by Bracer, a video game company. So some of the biggest publishers in comics and out there right now, they're being bought for their intellectual properties by gaming companies. Gaming companies make more money than Hollywood right now. So I do think that's definitely a driving force and will be in the future. I think we should also consider something else. I mean, these strikes are to try to help people earn money in a business, but it doesn't necessarily improve how money is earned in a business. A lot of Disney announced, and I think it was in the New York Times a few days ago, that they're going to put a lot more money in their theme parks. I think that makes total sense. The movies are, and their streaming station is not making money. It's not proving to be profitable. So essentially now they're just giving up further concessions in an industry that's losing profitability. So they're going to be more incentivized to concentrate on where they are making money, which is their theme parks. So the question becomes, like, what's going to happen to movie making and TV shows? You know, is it going to be profitable, and will it continue to be so? And I think that's a very big question.
So just to switch topics for a moment, you did mention eJunky, and we all see it on your T-shirt. And if you take a big, deep inhale,
In case you missed it.
tell us about eJunky.
Yeah, so eJunky is my sci-fi noir horror graphic novel. The cover actually was done by Derek Robertson, who is known for the TV series going back, The Boys, because he was the co-creator of the comic which spawned that. And he actually, I think he has co-producer credit in the TV series. That's a successful TV series. He's also known amongst us comic book junkies for Transmetropolitan, which was a real cyberpunk kind of sci-fi comic with a lot of punkish elements. That inspired me a lot. So Derek was gracious enough to do work on my cover. And the book, it really hits home with, you know, is technology making the world a better place? That's the key question it's sort of asking. And it's centered around two kind of opposing forces. One, which is the World Corporation Organization, because that is what now exists, not nations, in this future setting of 2055. The World Corporation Organization has encouraged and mandated the use of emotional regulation technology to kind of keep everyone happy so that no one's fighting with anyone. Another group called the Guardians of Pain have used technology to curate the most painful moments in our history with DNA scraping of corpses, and they're selling it on the black market. So on one side of society, pain and suffering is being eradicated, and on the other side, it's being commoditized. And there's this battle between the two different groups. And both groups believe, you know, one thinks we got to eliminate pain and suffering. That's what we need for as a society. The other group thinks we need it to grow and to evolve and to be conscious human beings. I mean, they cite everything from religion to the blues music to art, inspired by suffering and pain. So it's sort of a fascinating setting in terms of, like, what does technology make us happier? And with every solution we create, do we inevitably create new problems?
Why does that sound like our current political system?
Yeah, really. Really. You're just calling them by two different names.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Nicholas, we certainly appreciate you being here and giving us an update on what's happening in the manufacturing works of Hollywood. Clearly, there's a couple of wrenches in the production line that shouldn't be there. And we'll see how this transpires, and like to reach back to you and get an update as things settle out, because you've got a good solid point of view on, you know, where it might be going.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here.
That's great. And we thank you for being here, and want to let everybody know that if you like our show, click the like button. If you want to subscribe to our show, hit the subscribe button, and you know, click the like button multiple times. That would work. That would work. And if you happen to be in a foreign country, get your whole family to click the like button. You know? So anyhow, thanks much for being here. We have our shows on every Tuesday, sometime Wednesdays, sometimes Thursdays. Sometimes we have them on weekends, but you'll never know about it. So anyhow, thanks a lot, Tim.
Sure.
Great seeing you again.
Good to see you, Lou. Nick, gracious of you to be here. I want to encourage everyone to go to smartmediallc.com and check out his work. Again, Nicholas, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. And just so you know, I'm just CGI right here. This is not the real me.
You've answered questions quite gracefully. You've done a great job, computer.
It's all AI.
No, he must be ASI. And if anybody doesn't know what ASI is, Google it.
That's all you have to do.
It's new, it's hot. Ask ASI, what is ASI? And it'll tell you all about itself.
It's a lot better than SOL.
Thanks everyone for being
Take
here and
care.
watching our show. We'll talk to you again soon. Stay posted on YouTube and all of your favorite listening platforms. Bye for now.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's our show for today. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support the show, please like and subscribe, share on social media, or leave a review. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Rumble, or your favorite podcast app. Visit us online at mfgtalkradio.com for our other episodes. We have also included links to our advertisers below. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.